Assalamualaikum everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emma, and today we're going to be talking about pregnancy. So let's just get this out of the way. I am not pregnant, for those of you who might be like, oh my gosh, but no, that's not the case. I just wanted to talk about pregnancy because it's actually a subject that's very near and dear to my heart, and you will find out why. For a lot of women, pregnancy feels like something that a woman should be able to do. That's how it feels like. This is the epitome of being a woman. And so when you can't get pregnant, a lot of women feel like they're less of a woman, or they just feel really inadequate. And I kind of want to talk about that today because, again, that's very personal to me. And I think that this isn't talked about enough, and it needs to be said. So, for starters, never ask a woman when she's planning on having a baby, or if she's gonna have a baby, when she's gonna have a baby, all of that stuff. Never ask. And I know that when people ask, it generally comes from a good place, but it can be really hurtful to people. And I'm gonna tell you why. So, one, there are women who are infertile. So it's impossible for them to have a baby. Being infertile can be due to a number of reasons. Infertility is really hard for women. And when you bring up the fact that they can't have children, even if you aren't trying to, it can really be damaging and hurtful to them. Number two, medical complications. This kind of goes with infertility because some medical complications can make you infertile, and having to try and explain and try and be like, oh, well, I can't actually have a baby because I have this medical condition, or I'm on this medication, or whatever, again, it can be really hurtful and damaging. Number three, this is a big one, like a big one. And honestly, I probably should have made this the first one, but I have made it the third one. Miscarriages and stillbirths. So sometimes a woman becomes pregnant and the baby dies within her. And it can happen at any point in the pregnancy, honestly. It's more common in the first trimester, I believe, and there's a specific window. Gosh, I really can't remember, but doctors will often tell you, don't tell anybody about the pregnancy until this point of the pregnancy. I want to say it's the second trimester. I don't remember, but if you remember, you can put it in the comments below. It's pretty common in the first trimester, but it can happen at any point. My mom actually had a friend who was weeks away from, well, actually, I think it was more like days away from having her baby. And she went in to have a checkup because something felt wrong, and they discovered the baby had died. Sometimes a woman gives birth and the baby has died. And yeah, so it's very harmful when you talk to women, especially women who have had multiple miscarriages. I had a friend whose mother had, gosh, I don't even remember, but it was a lot of miscarriages before she finally had her baby. And it can be really devastating when somebody says, are you gonna have a baby? Or when are you gonna have a baby? And you've been trying and your baby's just, the pregnancy isn't viable, or the baby has died. So just don't ask. Just don't ask for any reason to anyone. If they bring it up, great. But if they don't bring it up, do not ask. That's just my number one rule. I also want to talk about how a lot of women wait to have a baby. There's this societal expectation that you have a baby in your 20s, usually around your late 20s, or at least in the United States or the culture I grew up in, that is the case. So when you're in your late 20s and your people are expecting you to have that baby, it can be difficult because you're like, I feel too young or something like that. It's okay to wait until your 30s to have a baby. There's nothing wrong with that. So if you're thinking that you want to wait until your 30s, that is totally fine. Don't listen to everybody telling you that it's too late or that you need to have one in your 20s. Just ignore all that. Have the baby when you want to. So now we're going to talk about my personal journey, and I think I can talk about it, but it's going to be a little difficult. So I have a number of medical complications. I have epilepsy, I have depression, and we think I have endometriosis. Now I say we think because I have to get a surgery done in order to figure out if I actually have it, but I'm not about to get a surgery right now because I feel like that would be a lot of money that I don't have. So yeah, I currently use a form of birth control, the Mirena IUD, to control the pain. So that's worked so far. Hopefully it continues to work, but anyway, my epilepsy, there are some issues. First of all, some of the medications I'm on for my epilepsy, currently I'm on just 2, but I was on 3. They can cause issues with the baby. One of the medications I was on could cause spinal problems. It cause it, I think could cause it not to fuse properly. I don't remember, but it could cause some serious damage, and I think the other ones I'm on can do the same. And so I would have to go in and talk with a fertility specialist, and I would have to be watched very carefully, the whole pregnancy be monitored very carefully. The baby has to be extremely planned, and it's just a lot of work and effort because if I were to go off my medication, I would start having seizures, and having seizures when you're pregnant, I mean, that cannot be good. I haven't really looked into the consequences of having a seizure when you're pregnant, but I cannot imagine that it would be anything good. Even with my medication, occasionally I will get what are called breakthrough seizures. So they're just seizures that happen anyway, even though you're on medication. So if I were to have one of those seizures while pregnant, that could be very dangerous for the baby. So going back to my endometriosis, potentially, endometriosis is known to cause infertility. Not always, but it is known to do that. So there's the possibility that I'm just completely infertile and just can't have a baby at all. I would need to get that surgery done and probably have to talk with more doctors about that, but that's also a possibility. And getting off the IUD in order to have a baby scares me because the pain that I suffer when I'm on my period and even when I'm ovulating is so incredibly intense. I'm talking throwing up, I'm talking not being able to stand up, I'm talking actual crying from the pain. It's just so intense. So I don't know if I can do that again. And then the other thing I want to talk about is depression. And my depression could really affect having a baby. I just, it's hard enough taking care of a cat and taking care of the house, because currently I'm a housewife, and it's hard enough doing those things. I'm like, how am I supposed to take care of a baby? I don't know if I could do it. It just seems like with the things that happen with my depression, like being very tired all the time, not really being able to take care of all my hygiene needs, not being able to keep the house as clean as I want, and then getting into arguments over that, and then, so many things. Also, all the emotional stuff that comes with being depressed. I just don't know if I could handle raising a child. And then there's also the possibility that I could pass on my medical issues to a child, and that scares me. That legitimately scares me, because I don't like going through my issues, and I can't imagine putting a child through that. And then there is the other thing of the fact that we live in a 1-bedroom apartment right now, so I really don't think that there's room for a baby, so there's another thing. Maybe at some point we'll be able to move, hopefully into a house, because I don't really want to raise a child in an apartment, which, no hate if you're doing that. I was a child raised in an apartment for until I was 7? So I'm not hating on it. It's just not something that I personally want to do. I also personally would like to wait until I'm in my 30s before I have a kid, because I feel like I'll be more mature and more stable and all of that. I don't feel like I'm those things right now. So I don't feel like bringing a child into this world would be very responsible. And that's another thing you have to think about, because having a baby seems like all fun and games until you realize how big of a responsibility it is. You are raising a human being, and you are molding them into the person they will become, and you have to teach them morals and values and all sorts of things. And there's so much that comes with being a parent that is so difficult. I have a lot of respect for parents, because wow, that's got to be so hard. So I guess the bottom line is pregnancy is a difficult topic for a lot of people, and you shouldn't pressure people into having a baby or ask if they're going to, because that's just inappropriate and it can cause a lot of damage to people. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to connect with me more, you can find me on Instagram right here. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. And if you've got any questions, comments, snide remarks, put them in the comments below. Okay, have a great day. Bye.